and welcome to Sit and Learn webinar series. This is Lucas Schaefer with Stand and Stretch. I'm glad to see everybody showing up. We still have a few people kind of popping in, so I appreciate that. What we're going to be talking about today is mobile technology today, how to optimize the use of tablets and smartphones. So we're really going to have some fun today. We're going to be looking at several different things when it pertains to uh, mobile technology, smartphones, tablets, and even computer usage. So we're going to be walking through a few things today. So just take a moment right now to kind of look around the interface, and I'd like to see by a show of hands, if you guys can see the monitor where it might show you, by a show of hands, can everybody see their control panel? And you might have to look down and see that there is a little button that says raise your hand. So a couple of questions like that might get asked during the webinar. So thank you for your participation. I see some people have found it. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sit and Learn is based on getting information out to people who are just in genuine need of it. So as we move through this presentation, please feel free to ask questions. Use your interface. We're going to have some polls that are going to be coming up that are going to be easy to use. We're going to share the results. So please participate with those polls. And also we have Jamie. She's also going to be helping with the organization. So she's also there if she needs help. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about is sort of what we have the opportunity to do. Please tweet along with us. I know you guys are at a computer, so how cool is it to use your web access to Twitter to look at using hashtag Sit and Learn. So today we're going to have an intro, sort of what we're going through now. We're going to talk about stats, consumer habits, how to optimize your usage when it comes to mobile technology. And we're also going to be looking at some pro tips, things that I think are going to be important. Now, basically, what we're going to look at is what is mobile, why is it so important to marketing to businesses right now, and then also how to optimize the usage from my standpoint. So we're going to be following a little bit around what Lucas does in his daily life that uses smartphones and tablets. So, and then we're going to have some time for Q&A. What you'll notice is this is our Twitter avatar over on the side, Lucas L. Schaefer and Stand and Stretch. So please, if you get a chance to, follow us. Also, this is our first chance for our first poll. So this is pretty fun. So I'm going to send the first poll up, and it's very, very easy. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's are you Mac or PC? So I thought I'd be a little get a little fun one in there. So it'll tell me go ahead and choose Mac or PC, or if you're using some other type of device, go ahead and participate with the quick poll. And I'll give you just a few minutes. And once you're utilizing the poll, and if anybody has any trouble, just let us know. You click one of the mouse buttons and you're good to go. But it's going to help us differentiate some of the things that are coming up. We talk a lot about iPads and tablets, so there's the idea we're going to be using some different things. So let's see here. So this is the results from the first poll. Looks like we have a large base of PC users, so that's really cool. So all right. So moving on, we're going to get right into the intro. My name again is Lucas Schaefer. I'm the presenter today, and we have Jamie McConnell, who also works at Stand and Stretch. So thanks again for showing up. If you don't know Stand and Stretch, we are an interactive marketing agency specializing in web, mobile, social, advertising, and print. Of course, follow up with us later on to the .com. So my favorite love of internet marketing and online marketing is statistics. Now, without these statistics, we generally don't know where to go, how to gauge our demographic. So I'm going to walk through some great mobile statistics that was brought together by ComScore. ComScore is one of the largest organizations of data for consumer behavior when it comes to online marketing. So it's going to be really fun. So let's start this off here. Use of mobile applications in North America are expected to grow by 40% this year. So in 2012, we're going to see an increased insurgence of smartphone and tablet usage. The last stat that I really heard was tablet growth has been 7 times the amount that smartphone growth when it comes to user adoption just in the past 10 years, which means that tablets are set to take over smartphones in less than 2 years. And the fact that we have so many smartphones out there, billions and billions just all over the world. So these are some really cool stuff. And I have a second poll here just to kind of get us into the idea. So um, do you own a mobile device and not a laptop? So we're just trying to get a generalization. So do you have a tablet? Do you have a and this is of course not a laptop. So we're looking for smartphones. We're looking for tablets, a Kindle Fire perhaps. So let's see. You know, I saw this happening. So this is pretty cool. So a large percent of everyone said that yeah, we do have a mobile device. And of course, I'm glad that you guys are here. So the share of connected device traffic in US as reported from ComScore. Now take this big entire Pac-Man looking circle and think of it as all the traffic for the internet, total US internet traffic. So we have, you can see a chunk of that, 8.2% of it being actually from connected device. Now, when we talk about connected devices moving through the webinar, you will find that we're going to be looking at computers, others, which are Kindle Fires and Nooks, and we're also going to be looking at tablets and mobile. So you can see that 8% of the total U.S. internet traffic is coming from these connected devices. Pretty cool stuff. When you imagine, how this is going to be consumed in the future, the next 10 years, we'll probably see this turn out to be a higher percentage, just going to 2013, 2014. 1 in 3 North Americans access social networks from their phone. So this is kind of one of those easy ones. We're most likely to access map and news. So you'll see here that we're sending text messages, we're taking photos, we're using email, we're accessing social networking sites, looking at weather, and then of course the entertainment comes in with the games. So you can get a good feel here of what the US is doing in the other 4 major mobile markets that were used in this research. So pretty cool stuff there. This is a breakdown of the top categories and their growth from 2010 to 2011. So what we're seeing here is that the dark blue is from December 2010 and the light blue is the year after, December 2011. So we're seeing upwards of 70 to 130% increase on these growth categories for mobile usage in the US. And just to talk about this for a little bit, health information is really important for, my family. So I can see how this is becoming such a growth industry for mobile marketing. Online retail is sort of a no-brainer. It's almost like we're looking instead of at these independent categories growing, but more of the accessibility. So online companies are going to mobile marketing strategies, getting more people while they're on their phones and tablets and connected devices. Men's magazine content, electronic payments, gaming information. We'll kind of go down the list and start seeing at the bottom we got kids and family entertainment. So this is some really good information to look at the growth in audience for these main categories here. They'll looking at development even further into 2013 with the expectation that the same amount of growth to be relevant. So let's take a quick look. Now we have some stats. We just took a look at how big the mobile market is, what it stands for U.S. traffic in the internet. Today, I want to show you something that this is my favorite part: consumer habits. Now, probably some of us right now are probably looking down at our phone or looking at Facebook and just checking our Twitter feeds or looking at an email and just realize that we have to get back to an email pretty soon. So these types of habits are something that mobile phones are starting to drive into our everyday life. So let's take a good look at what ComScore and some other companies are reporting back as far as composition of the demographics. Here you'll look at smartphones being most popular between 25 and 34-year-olds. Now, I personally fall into that category, and I don't know what I would do without my phone. And I know there are some purists out there that say too much is not enough. But when you're in a small business environment and you're in a transparent marketing mode where everybody knows what you're doing, your customers, your clients, and your competition can see how you're doing, it's always important, even when it comes to public relations, to have some type of connected device. So I treat mine as sort of my connected device. So what you're looking at here is sort of a break down the middle, 50%, 51% to 48% usage of male and female, and then a categorization of the age brackets. Again, when a company comes to us and says, Lucas, we want to go to Facebook and Twitter, and we do convalescent care products, and I tell them, unfortunately, your demographic is outside the range of where you're going to find the most bang for your buck. So what you see here is basically if you're in the 25 to 44 age bracket, mobile is a growing industry, almost capitalizing on half of the smartphone usage brought by ComScore today. So it's really great to take a look at some of those numbers. So this is a really great statement here. Males and females display differing patterns of smartphone shopping behavior. And then I wrote, duh, right? Yeah, I know. That it's females are more likely to use their smartphones to make shopping a more social experience as they engage in behaviors such as taking product pictures, sending these pictures, and then also trying to get information through sort of a recommendation cycle. Now, I just recently had this type of experience with shopping for some things at Hobby Lobby that's local here in Columbus, Georgia. The Hobby Lobby, the local one here in Columbus, Georgia, we had I was shopping with my son, and I noticed this woman walking around taking pictures of just about every single thing. She would take a picture and she would take a moment to type something in, hit the send button, and then move about 12 feet to the right, take another picture. It was as if she was cataloging the entire store for research and future usage. It was amazing. So you see stuff like that. This is kind of what we're talking about. So down at the bottom, you'll see the dark blue in the males and the light blue is the females. So what are the consumer behaviors is broken down into these demographics. So starting with the left, took a picture of a product. You see that the female was more inclined to do that. The second one, text and called friends and families about a product, scanned a product barcode, sent picture of product to family friends. You can see where the male wins, where they were comparing product prices. I recently was able to listen to a webinar that talked about how men are the hunters and the gatherers, and women are the stores of information and are the catalog. So you can see here that the men are hunting for the best price on mobile devices compared to women. Found coupons or deals, and here we go with the deals. You know, we go after those. When I see most of that coming from the female demographic. And also researching products online. I research products while I'm in the store. I'll take 5 minutes to read a review from another customer before I'll listen to the response of a salesperson tell me how great the product is. So you can see that there's some great behavioral attitudes being brought to light here. So this brings us to QR codes. We've all heard of these QR codes. We all understand what they are. We know that there's a great link between mobile to traditional marketing as far as print. How do you get people to your mobile device without them having to type in some long website URL? So QR codes were the answer. You know, QR codes have been around since 1994 when Japan started creating them to use data for auto parts, quickly scanning them and not having to key or do any data entry. We saw the past few years as it became sort of an important part of mobile marketing as the QR code, which is called a quick response code, became the jumping off point for most various mediums in print publications. So I got another poll here I want to share with you guys. So I'm going to launch that real quick, and if you would please answer. In December 2011, 1 in every 5 smartphone owners in the US had scanned a QR code by their phone. Now this was done by the research from ComScore, so please let me know. I see about half of you guys have answered the poll here. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and post it. Let's see what everybody says here. So a good percentage of us. So we've used QR codes for marketing purposes. This is a great opportunity to just take a moment and listen to a QR code example. Right now we have a lot of campaigns that are out there, and one of the ones that makes the most sense is our packaging for one of our clients. You know, it's a box that sits in Sam's Club, and on the outside of it, the assembly instructions are simply a scan code away. So if you buy this product, you'll notice that there's a nicely placed, nicely marketed QR code on the side of this product. Well, that person gets it home, and instead of going over to the computer or taking time to get the information out of the manual, they can scan this QR code that allows them to watch sort of an assembly video. And even further than that, it might even take them to a mobile optimized website in which that person can choose to watch a video, register their product, and on and on and on, and maybe even some type of recipes or something to use the product with. So there's some really great insight when you're dealing with QR codes that can be added to mobile. So thank you for taking the poll, guys. I appreciate that. So this is where it gets interesting about the consumer behaviors. I love data. This is my realm. I love it. I asked the question Mac and PC, so we have a lot of PC people here. So the cool part is I really want to take a moment and focus on some of this information here. As you see, back in December of 2010, which is the left side of this graph, there was a huge surgence of the dark blue, which is the iOS, the Apple software, the iPads and the iPhones and the iPods. And you'll see that Android was just a small little piece of that. Now, as 2011 arrived and Android kind of had its ability to go into multiple devices and it became a usable open source software for mobile devices, you can see on the far right, we almost have the same amount of share for Android and Apple products today. So no longer, if you take your marketing attitude and say, I want to develop an Apple product, you need to also be very aware that there is a growing at almost an exponential rate. In some cases, clients of ours, we sit and talk about this as a hockey stick because the rate of change is almost exponential over time. So we look at this chart and say, this is great information because I can know where I should be putting my money. It's usually in Apple, Android, and not in Microsoft RIM or Palm, which RIM is the BlackBerry. Palm is the deprecated older version of handhelds. So here we're looking at 40 million tablets were in use among mobile subscribers in the US, so outpacing smartphones, which took 7 years, and I mentioned that just a moment when we first started. So that's great information. I wanted to bring that up. So tablets and multi-platform consumption. A breakdown of tablet traffic by platform indicates that Apple has a substantial lead, driving 90.4% of all tablet traffic in December of 2011. Now, by a show of hands, how many of our people out there own an iPad? So if you look over in your control panel, you should see a little hand button that says raise your hand. Very cool. I see people out there who have iPads. So know that you are part of the 90% of tablet traffic. Thank you guys for raising your hand. I appreciate that. Now, if you look over at the far side, you'll see that the mobile is broken down into different layers. You see a higher use of Android products. Now, my response to this says that the Android mobile market is growing substantially faster than the Apple handheld products. Only because Android's produced at a faster rate and also at a cheaper rate. So what we see is Android flooding the market as Apple's consistently holding on to the four main product lines, which is the iPhone, iPad, the releasing of the iPad mini, and the iPod. So while Apple and iOS are still four products hanging on to a very good chunk of this traffic, you can see how other devices are starting to come in and share that market with them. So it's good information. Let me see if I can get to the next one here. Okay, yes, this is great. I love this. Tablets and multi-platform consumption, a next layer. Now what you're looking at here looks like a daily biorhythm of somebody's life. This is an opportunity for an analysis of internet traffic that provides sort of a news category. So during the course of a day, they analyzed usage, and I think the pool of this was 10,000 people that work with ComScore, And what they do, and I'll tell you how they got this data, which is very interesting. You can call ComScore and fill out an application. And what they do is they install a software on all your devices and basically tracks your usage for a month, a year. Some of these people sign up for a year. And what you get is cool access to ComScore's data. If you know anything about research firms like Forrester and ComScore and the big data holders, they charge a lot of money for this data. So Lucas Schaefer might go to ComScore and say, hey, I'll carry around this data, let you track everything I do. I'm an ultra consumer. My behavior matches something that's relevant to your report, and I'll let you bug me for a year, but I want all access to these $10,000 reports that you release and are eventually trickled out, much like I've received this data, are trickled out through many different resources over a year. So that's why most of this data is probably 6 months old already. And in the world of technology, that is a little old, but it's still relevant. Okay, so what are we looking at here? So what you're looking at, and I'm going to see if I can pull up my little highlighter here, is this time right here is pretty much normal for everybody because that's when you're sleeping, right? We all get up about the 6 o'clock hour, 7. Some of us might sleep into 10, 12. That's cool. But notice this, the tablet usage is the first thing we go to. Check that out. The people that were part of this, the tablet gets picked up, the news category filters through. I'm on my Flipboard, I'm on my Pulse, I'm looking at my Google Currents and my periodical New York Times, those types of things. So I'm checking that out, and then I'm also getting on my mobile device right around that time too. So you can see that the mobile's taking over. Now you'll notice the correlation here, and I find this interesting, is that as the day moves on, you'll notice that the computer picks up. So this is me shifting, putting down my tablet, putting down my smartphone, and going directly to my computer. So if I'm marketing to people during the day, this might be my zone. I might be looking at trying to make sure that my marketing is still concentrated on computer first, with a secondary objective of getting into what would be right here in this line. That would be the mobile smartphone area. So the best part about this is we get into the day as it goes on. You'll notice that the tablet usage is shrinking, but right about time people get off work, you'll notice that a huge surge of tablet into the evening. Now, by show of hands, does this represent anybody in the room? When I get home, the first thing I do is cook dinner, and as soon as I get done, I get on the couch, I grab my tablet, and I check mail, and I do some news-related things. So it's really interesting how this helps us participate on a tablet structure, and how are you marketing to these people. So I just wanted to bring that up. Very cool information. Let me see if I can switch this back. And moving on to the next one. So this is sort of the same amount of information, but it's looking at two different things here. This is actually, and I'm going to bounce back just real quick. This is a time schedule, so we're dealing with one day, and then we have here the share of daily device traffic to category. So this is page traffic over a day or weekend. So this is going back. This is a weekday, so this is where we're working in the middle of the day, and the second chart is actually on a weekend. So we always have the diversion of traffic from weekdays to weekends. So here's a picture of Saturday morning. This is Saturday morning. What do you notice about this? Well, that tablet, the dark blue line, is showing a high percentage of usage, while desktop computers, we're not going to the computers anymore on the weekends. This is telling me that if I have a preference, tablet, smartphone, or computer, I'm going to choose last to go to the computer. So it's very interesting information. I want to make sure you guys were checking out consumer habits. So when you're looking at marketing to mobile people, the mobile users, you have a better idea of when to hit them. So Google Apps, which is the best place to get most of the resources we're going to talk about, are the most visited by iPhone and Android users. You can see here Android being Google Search, Gmail, Google Maps, Facebook. On the iPhone, it's YouTube, which is funny because it's owned by Google, which is no longer that stat is irrelevant towards the new iPhone 5 because they no longer carried the YouTube inherent app. And also you'll notice that Google Maps. So you wonder why iPhone 5 took out the Google Maps feature and the YouTube app. Well, because it was the most used app on their phone. So you have Yahoo Weather, Pandora, Angry Birds. So you can kind of see that you have productivity followed by entertainment, and then news and sports, and then other forms of entertainment kind of filtering out there. So optimizing your usage. This is going to be great because I'm about to walk through and explain in depth, and I think this is an opportunity for everybody to get on point with their raise their hand and ask the questions. I see we have a question from one of our attendees about a tablet, another tablet. So what I'd like to do is if you have an opportunity to ask a question, then please don't let me go too far. I will backtrack and I will stop and I will center in and look at the question here. So I'll take the time to take questions on this, and that's what I'd like to do. So if you could take a moment to look at these 13 categories. So what I basically have done here is I picked some of the categories that I thought were the most useful for optimizing your usage and your online usage. I'm sorry, your tablet and your smartphone usage. Basically, it all comes down to productivity. I sometimes go around and I can act like I'm three people because I can be in different places at different times. I can be in a different city and still have a collaboration with the team on how we're working on a web project or a mobile project. So I'm going to talk about these as if they're all from my experiences and my usages. So if I get too far along or we start you have a question, don't let me skip anything. So here we go. So productivity is one of the best things that I use apps to handle, to get more of, to make more efficient, to get further along. And I have to give credit to Evernote. Let me talk about Evernote for just a moment. Evernote is a note-taking app at its very core. But what Evernote is also, it's a collaborative tool that allows you to connect multiple people to your notes. So if I'm taking notes in a meeting, so let's just say I'm taking notes, and I take my Evernote tablet application and take a picture of something the clients brought in and an audio recording of something that was being dictated, I can now share that information through email, through a URL, through Facebook, anything I wanted to make it shareable to. I can utilize Evernote to make that note, the pictures and the audio recording, send that to the whole team so the whole team can have all the notes that I took from the meeting. So you can imagine this. Let's just say it was sticky notes. Let's just say I took a meeting and we were sitting there and I took all my notes on sticky notes. In order to get this information to my team, I have to take those sticky notes, pass it to one of my team members and say, once you're done reading these, please pass them to the next person. Now, of course, those don't include pictures of any type of concept or ideas or drawings. The idea is Evernote allows us to share those individually. Now, also in the sharing world, you have Dropbox and Google Drive. Now, I'll just go ahead and preference this right now. Most of these apps that I'm going to be talking about and how to use them to optimize your daily life and your work life is more or less free for the first set of features. Like Evernote's a free product. Dropbox is a free product. So as we move along, if it's a pay model, I'll tell you about it because I don't want you to go out there and spend a bunch of money because technically most of the things I'm going to be talking about are free. So everybody's had the issue that Dropbox knows how to solve well. If you're in a meeting and somebody says, I have some pictures of that thing, but they're too big to put into an email. Or, hey, I have a copy of those files. I just need to send them to you in the mail on a disk because I can't get them to you through email because we all know that those attachments need to be a certain size, or at least most of us do. So when coming back around to what Dropbox allows you to do is it installs a local folder on your computer, much like a regular Windows folder or what you see in Finder on the Mac. and that folder becomes a shared resource. And what that means is Lucas has a folder, it's a Dropbox folder, it's called Sit and Learn. Now inside that folder, I can share that folder with another user, and then we both share that information. If I drag a file into my Dropbox folder, the other person gets an update and says, hey, a new file has been uploaded into your Dropbox folder. So if I'm moving pictures about a new client work or some new website design, I can just put these files into the Dropbox, and then it updates everyone who's connected to that Dropbox. You cannot beat that type of productivity. Just to say that you take that same idea, put all your images on a CD and mail it to me, it could get ruined by a magnet, it could break. When I get it, I could accidentally scratch it. And what if that's the only copy? Dropbox keeps a redundant copy of all your files just in case something gets misplaced, or let's say my client deletes all the files in there, which has happened, so we got to go back out and get the files back from a redundant safe source. So that's pretty cool. iDoneThis is also a application that can help you organize your tasking, so that's pretty cool too. I'm not going to focus like I am on some of these big ones. I really want to keep the attitude around some of what I think are the most important apps we're going to talk about. So organization's key. I remember when we first started Stand and Stretch, RTM was a big one. Remember the Milk. It was basically an everyday to-do list that kept you accountable for getting these things done. And you set the task, literally remember to get the milk, or don't forget to email that client, or don't forget to charge that card. You were in these scenarios, so it keeps you accountable. You put deadlines on them, and it comes back to you. So remember the milk was great. Workflowy was something new. I saw it looked great. There's some charges that are a part of it, but large team projects, taking notes, research papers, journaling, planning of a wedding. Most of these tools that talk about organization are great because they also endure a part of the collaboration environment. So remember the milk could be worked on by multiple people, so like a team flow of tasking. And then also Workflowy has that same thing as well. And color notes. I brought this up because if you look at my desktop right now, I have these little tiny digital Post-it notes. And I think it's just so cool because I can put a little note on there. Hey, don't forget that Tuesdays you got to go pick up, something for my son Gus. Don't forget this. And it's little tiny color notes. And this is actually available on on Android, iPhone, and PC and Mac. So you can just stick these little Post-it notes, and they're all digital, and they're cool. You don't have to go out and buy the big stack of Post-its if you're going to be dealing with How many of you guys have Post-its on your computer monitors right now? Right? I'll raise my hand to that. Everybody puts Post-its everywhere. So how cool would it be to put the digital Post-its on the on your computer screen? So it's cool. Let's move on. I use email like my everyday task list that people outside of our team are giving me. So if you sent me an email today, I literally think it is a task. In my mental state, my emails are just as important as the secondary and other types of task lists that I might create. So you can see that I use Gmail. It's free. Apple Mail is also available. It's free. Now, I don't really get into the Microsoft Outlook of things because I think that collaboration inside of a closed-off proprietary environment is important. Let's say that you're in an organization that needs its own email servers and all this technical talk about how you got to be secure. I come from an IT background, so I know that there's the DMZ that you got to be inside of and all these things, and security is a key. So if you're doing this, your daily life should have some type of multi-access email. That means you're getting it from your tablet, you're getting it on your phone, you're getting it on your computer. It's all syncing up, it's all matching. Gmail is my favorite. I think I've been on Gmail for 10 years now. So I have a large archive of all the history of emails that's searchable at one moment. So I'm not going to spend much time on email. We all know how important email is, but wanted to make a mention that if you're going to be successful on optimizing your mobile usage, you got to find a way to get that email to sync. Now, if you're looking at internal structures that use Microsoft Outlook, there are ways to sync, and you might have to talk to your administrator at your organization about how you can sync these internal devices at some point to sync with your mobile phone and your tablet device so you can have access to those. Because if you're on the run, here's an example. If you're out of the office and you share a calendar with the entire team and you just set a meeting for the conference room and it was available, you put the meeting request in your phone and it syncs up, and then it syncs up to your business's conference room space, then everybody's okay. But if you set it on your phone or you don't get it and you set this important meeting and everybody shows up and then there's somebody else in that room, you can see why this collaboration is more of a productivity tool than it is an informational structure. So there's bonuses to different types of emails too. So news, I get a lot of news through my tablet. Man, I'm actually a part of a periodical magazine subscription software called Zenio. Now, Zinio. Zenio is something that I download, like Bloomberg, Business Week, Forbes, and there's a couple of other ones, the Harvard Business Review, and even just get .net, which is a magazine for web designers. Those are cool, but what I really wanted to focus on with news are the apps that are out there that help you aggregate multiple sources of news. So while you can still have your periodical delivered to you, your Ledger Enquirer, and it's all segmented into these kind of zones where you got to load in one app for each level of information, using a software like Flipboard or Pulse or Google Currents allows you to connect all of these sources of information, may it be from a technical category for news, but you can see here Flipboard is the image here for Flipboard. You have all of the pieces right there on one screen, and Flipboard is just an amazing software. They did a really good job with intuitive user design, as most of these apps do. So I recommend Flipboard to put all your information into. And if you don't have Flipboard, which I think still just an Apple product, then you can get Pulse or Google Currents. Now, I use Google Currents for my Android tablet, and I think it's just an amazing tool because it keeps me up to date on everything. And once it starts getting used to what you're reading, it will actually preference those categories for you and bring the news that you're usually reading to the top. So it's pretty cool. And we have Maps. Now, everybody's sort of heard the feedback from Apple Maps. I know I saw this wonderful, and I'm more of a Google guy, so I'm not gonna down Apple as much as I would if we were in person, maybe having a conversation away from a recording. But the idea is Google and Apple are now competing for map structures, online map awareness. So Apple just launched theirs, and as with any new software, there were some issues. Showing up 100 meters away from the actual checkpoint. Data for cities not being exactly where it needs to be. Now, granted, it's only just all the data for the entire world on a map. Not a big deal, right? So Google Maps has had almost 15 years to do this. So obviously they've done really amazing things. Looking at things like Google Earth. Apple Maps is now trying to capitalize on the map industry. And I mentioned MapQuest here too because it's still relevant. That was the first place I ever went to try to get directions to somewhere I didn't know. MapQuest is the one that's credited for getting rid of the need to buy the old atlas that had every state in it and everything. So now you used to print the MapQuest list. Everybody used to. I know everybody did. So the idea is Google Maps and Apple Maps are now taking over how to get to these places. Very important for productivity. Most of the times, if you're using a smartphone and tablet, you can see an address and click on it, much like you can with an iPhone, and then get directions. If you're within walking distance, you can take your smartphone and tell it that you're walking. Google Maps has a feature of a little person that's got legs, and you click on it and you say I'm walking. It'll actually adjust to the average 4 to 5 miles per hour. So it'll give you, oh, you're within 15 minutes of walking distance between this and your next location. So utilizing these maps to produce some kind of what I would say directional day-to-day, trying to get from point A to point B. When I set up, here's a tip for Google Calendar, which I think is coming up in just a moment, but when I set up my events in Google Calendar, I know the reminder is going to pop up on my phone 10 minutes before the meeting because that's how I have it set up. So the idea is I make sure I always put the address in the event information area. So when I get there, I don't have to fumble for a a map or look for the address on a thing or Google the business and try to get their, the PO box, which helps you with nothing. So I pull up my Google Calendar, the reminder pops up and says, all right, click here, and I click right there on the address, and Google Maps pops up, and it asks me with a one-click question, would you like to go to this place? And I say yes, and it automatically dials me in. It says, well, it's right around the corner. You just need to go this way. And then it's like having the travel companion, the navigator, being part of your smartphone or tablet device. Very cool. And please let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to ask. Social media is a very important feature for smartphones and tablets. Um, I'll just start by saying that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are really hitting all the good bases with mobile marketing. Facebook has now surpassed, or Facebook mobile has now surpassed Facebook desktop. I think the last ratio I read was 62% of all Facebook traffic is from, this is in the United States, in the US, are from Facebook mobile applications. So we see a lot of the updates going into Facebook mobile. We haven't seen an update since March of 2012, the timeline feature for Facebook. So what you see is social media becoming a necessary part of having the mobile and tablet life. Facebook keeping you update with your friends, Twitter allowing you to communicate and collaborate with people in a public scenario, and then Instagram sharing of photos. This is my favorite new app that I've used. They didn't have an Android for some time, but they recently did release an Instagram. It's amazing how we're watching businesses flock into Instagram as it is, and if you're oriented around imagery and photographs and things like that, it's very exciting times for people getting into Instagram. Instagram just launched their profile pages, so if you have a business, you can go out there and set up your little page and start putting photos out there. Hootsuite is one of my favorite tools. I'm actually certified in Hootsuite, or once upon a time. The idea of Hootsuite is it's a collaborative tool that puts all your Facebook, Twitter, and now even Instagram into your handheld, your tablet device, or your desktop device. Check out Hootsuite if you get time. I'm going to move right into calendars here. I have to say that without Google Calendars, I don't know if Stand and Stretch would actually make it through an entire day. I often show clients when they ask me about, why do we have to schedule 3 days from now, a week from now, and I show them our schedule. And yes, we use our Google Calendar to delegate between work and meetings. So we calendar in work just as important as calendaring in meetings with people. So we set our goals for the next 2 weeks, and then we work on them. Now, one of the best things that you can do is look at your Google Calendar and iCal as a multi-user interface. One of the earlier stages of making mistakes in setting up and how to optimizing Google Calendar for your work and personal life is putting all those events into one calendar. You can simply create a new calendar for every type of thing. And let me explain. So we have a stand and stretch calendar, right? That pretty much means this is our meeting schedule, this is our work schedule, these are things that are pertaining to stand and stretch. Well, there's also a Lucas Schaefer calendar. Inside that, which sometimes overlaps the stand and stretch, because Lucas can be doing different things than the team, right? So our calendar will say Lucas has a haircut appointment at 4:30. Well, that lets the team know that we shouldn't schedule a meeting that needs to be a part of Lucas's calendar. Now, outside of that, we even go even further. Like we now have a sit and learn webinar calendar, which is a bright red, so we know that date's coming up. We have our sit and talk calendar. I have for as far as internal things, I have a stand and stretch recurring. So if you were to start a hosting account with us, or if you were to start some kind of service with us, and it has a start date, an end date, a billing date, how often do your invoices go out, these types of things, where did that date start, what are some notes about that time, I have a calendar set up just for that. So inside my interface, it's a huge mess, but the great part about it is I can color code it. And once you get used to optimizing it for your life and your work life, you get the idea of what it represents. So the other side is, since most of my devices are Google Android, they sync up. So my tablet links up to my smartphone posts to my desktop posts to my tablet. So I have this calendar, and as I mentioned about earlier with the maps, putting enough information, I can actually create a very optimal scenario for running into meetings that I don't know exactly where it's at, or where's the information? What is this meeting even about? Some people put meeting with Lucas and I get this request, and 3 weeks down the road I'm looking, I'm like, man, I don't even, what are we meeting about? And I get in the meeting and say, okay, that if that meeting request came from us, it would have had a description. We put descriptions in for our clients so that they get a early look at what we're going to be looking at for that meeting. So now, everything I just said, the same exact thing for the Apple version, which is commonly known as iCal. Now, the cool part is both of these calendars can take RSS feeds from other calendars. So, for example, Facebook has an RSS feed that you can take your events from Facebook. Have you joined an event? Have you maybe'd an event? You can take the Facebook feed and actually import it into your Google Calendar. So on top of all the other calendars, I have a Facebook feed that actually shows me what events and that I've actually said I was going to. So it's a very cool feature. So let's get mobile meetings have been on the rise. I know I just got my latest phone from Samsung. I got the Galaxy S3, and one of the best parts about it, outside of the LTE 4G network, which is the super fast network everybody's talking about, one of the coolest parts was getting Skype. And it looks like I need to back up a little bit, just kind of talking about the RSS feed for Facebook. So let me try to re-examine that for just a second, and then I'll bounce into Skype and the 4G LTE. Facebook has an event structure just like most calendars, right? You can take the RSS feed from Facebook, and maybe that's another webinar down the road how we get to that. But you can take the RSS feed from Facebook, import it in as a calendar into your Google Calendar or iCal, and it will support all of the events that you have joined or have said maybe to. So once you do that, that will update everything back into the information that you need to be relevant in one calendar. It'll update on your phone, your tablet, as long as you're using these interfaces that are Google Calendar and iCal. Very cool. I'm glad we got back on that for you. Thanks for sending the question. Anybody else have any questions? Please put a question in for us. So mobile meetings. We were talking about the 4G LTE network, the Wi-Fi, the connected devices now allow us to do things like FaceTime and Skype. I often we are a we have what I'm trying to say is we have a lot of clients that aren't in the Columbus area. We have LaGrange, Arbor Palatka area, Atlanta. We can't drive. It's not even feasible to think we can drive to these places. It is often a time where we might Skype in or do something that's a collaborative effort on a mobile device, maybe a tablet or even our smartphones, where we might use something. And I'll get into video conferencing next, which is where I don't want to go with this. But mobile meetings are basically, here's an example. A client, I'm at lunch, and a client calls me in from Skype, and he's video Skyping me, and I have him on the screen, and I don't know why he wants to see me talk to him. Maybe it's an abuse of such a cool software, but it's always good to see people and to communicate. It's that real connection that gets missed sometimes. Mobile meetings are sort of taking on the faces of the traditional. Taking the time to go set up a meeting schedule, 2 o'clock, just call me and we can see what we can do. That kind of attitude is something we see trending. Now, video conferencing is sort of the next step to what I was trying to explain. Google Hangouts and Skype are probably one of the most popular. Right now, you can do Google Hangout with your Google account. You see the guy here looks very happy. He's like, hey, Google Hangouts, we use Google Hangouts internally here and also with other clients that are already out there in the google.com environment. Skype is more friendly for users who have already been through using Skype and are already using Skype basically. So video conferencing is taking on a lot of different things right now. If you're going to start using this software, you can look at reductions and optimization around driving costs, time consumption, organizational issues with having to get, everybody there, printouts, things like that, digitizing printouts, so you can see how an optimization can occur through these virtual worlds. Um, so we're kind of rounding it out here. This is cool. So we're getting into some of you can probably tell we're getting into some of the ones that I'm less passionate about. This is not Evernote. This is not Google Calendar. Um, but search is so important for tablet and mobile right now. So one of the things that just wanted to show you about this was Google, Bing, and Yahoo are providing so much for what you have to do. This is a scenario, and this is how I optimize my life. I am sitting out in front of a store, and the hours aren't posted on the door, and I don't know what time they're going to open up. So I'm outside the door a little early, and I Google their name because nobody's there to answer the phone. And here, right on my phone, everything pops up. This is a scenario that everybody's sort of done before. You're looking for something, and you pop it into your phone. Most phones now have the dictate option, so you can push the button and you say, stand and stretch, and then hit the button, and then all the options, all the search engine results comes up for stand and stretch. Pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Again, we had some conversation about QR codes and shopping. The apps that I think that would help you optimize, these are actually names of apps. So the code scanner, this is the most generic app out there. It will allow you to do just about anything with, you can even share your contacts with this app. For example, taking your contact information and say, I want to share with my reader. It will do that. Consumer reports shopper. This is cool because if you're into consumer reports, like I have a 2.5-year-old, so I'd like to know that this new thing we're buying has not been recalled, because it's always the products that are for infants and toddlers that are being recalled. So I can walk up to a baby seat for a car seat and scan the UPC code on the side, and Consumer Reports will give me the up-to-date information about that product. So, making you a little bit more savvy when shopping, a little bit more well-informed when shopping. Amazon Mobile is also a really great place to comparison shop. The last thing that I heard about Amazon Mobile is they're actually working on a scanner that can take the size of a product and understand what it is. Now, outside of getting the color code, the coloring on the product, like if you did like a Coke can and it's Coca-Cola, if you did just a regular beverage can and it's a Coca-Cola product, you might not know the difference between Coca-Cola and Sprite without knowing the color. So there's a lot of algorithms being put together. So Amazon Mobile's about to let you know that if you scan, and I'm looking at my desk, looking around, I got a letter opener here. If I scan this letter opener, not only is it going to know it's a letter opener, but it's going to know that 2 miles away from my location, there's one for 97 cents. So we're looking at that as being an important stretch into consumer shopping. Music and radio. Pandora is almost a standard for any kind of environment that you might have to go waiting in. We used to play the radio in all these places, and I don't ever hear hardly the radio unless it's coming from an analog device, unless it's coming from actual tuner with speakers attached. That's what I meant. Most of the times we see that these elaborate systems are hooked up, and there's a little plug-in for Pandora now. They're coming out with Pandora, Wi-Fi abilities with Pandora, and all these radios are starting to go Wi-Fi. They're starting to transmit their signals dual on both out into the world and also through the Wi-Fi and radios. And iHeartRadio is a great app. I use Grooveshark a lot because it allows me to accumulate and build my own music. Now, I was telling somebody the other day, when I'm in creative mode, I listen to music. But when I'm in administration, when I'm writing bills and I'm doing stuff, I listen to audiobooks. So music and radio / audiobooks. I've been able to, let's just say, I've probably consumed roughly about 45 to 50 books in the past 2.5 years. Before that, I probably made it through 3 books fully, and they were most of that was nonfiction. And I'm leaving out all the school books, by the way. But in the past 2.5 years, I've been able to get a lot of information out of audiobooks. I listen to them. They're usually 6 to 8 hours long. After the audiobook's done, I might want to listen to it again. So in 12 18 hours, I might be able to listen to one book in three, and you know, 3 times. So that's cool. So video streaming, which is leads us up to our next poll. If everybody's still out there paying attention, everybody still there? I'm going to launch this little poll here. How much video are you streaming a week? Man, this is a great little question here. So I am in the 3+ hours a week. Let's see where everybody else is. We have about 70%, 80% now voting. About to close it up. Anybody want to cast that last vote? Let's take a look. All right, let's see here. This is really cool. It looks good. I'm glad I'm not in the majority here, but this is great. Let me tell you a story about Netflix. I know our time's getting low here. Um, every day where I live, from the hours of 5 till about 9:30 in the evening, I have what's called the Netflix bandwidth issue. Everybody in our apartment complex, everybody in the world turns on their Netflix, and we have what's called a bandwidth consumption crisis. And everybody knows about it because nobody hears about it. If you're an ISP, if you're Knowledge and you're Mediacom, you've already spent the past 2 years dedicating bandwidth limiters to people who are downloading Netflix information. So the ideas go into, well, if you take everybody in Columbus, just say Columbus, and they are all watching Netflix for 2.5 hours a week, maybe it's other streaming devices, you'll notice that 70% of us are over 2 hours a week or more. An hour of data is usually around 1.6 gigabytes. So we're upwards around maybe 8 gigabytes a week, more than that. So if we start doing numbers like 8 times 180,000 gigabytes, you start looking at ISPs like they're shoveling out oil to the entire world. You know, one of the things we're starting to see shift are the ideas of how data is being regarded. Read an article just recently about how data is the new oil. You're getting things like Verizon saying the share anything plan where you're only really paying for data now. They don't care about the numbers. They don't care about the minutes. They don't care about the text messages. They want you to consume their oil or data, for example, and they're giving it to you at $15 a gig. So a gigabyte's $15 in a relational model with Verizon. So if you look at your ISPs, let's say Knowledge and Mediacom, the greatest thing that you see happening there is they're giving you higher speeds. But if you sign up for the 100 megabyte plan, if you look very closely, I know this is true with Knowledge's plan, look very closely, they're only giving you 999 gigabytes to use a month. So that sounds like a lot, yes. But what they're trying to do is find ways to shovel bandwidth into the ISPs. I know if you're out in cable TV of East Alabama land, it's actually lower. It's 250 gigabytes a month. Now, you had no idea that there were bandwidths on top of your ISPs, but there are. They're shifting. People are watching this. Before you know it, access to internet's going to be free. You're just going to have to pay to get the amount of data you want. So it's very interesting to talk about Netflix and Amazon and Hulu Plus and how they're changing everything. Thank you guys for taking that poll. So just a couple tips and tricks out the hat here. Buying apps can be expensive but free. But the free ones can limit your experience. If you have some features and you notice that you're using up all of the ideas, all of the features, then buying it may help you. Using tablets are most used while on the couch or in the bed. They're bulky, difficult to unwrap with protective covering. I know I have an iPad and I hate the 30 seconds it takes me to get it out of this protective thing, but if I drop it, I'd have a heart attack. Most of the apps we mentioned are smartphone apps first, then tablets came about. I spoke about bandwidth usage, Wi-Fi at public places as often as possible. Be aware of your monthly package or provider costs. Protect yourself. Our mobile devices are almost like carrying around your digital copy of our lives. If somebody got a hold of my phone and had it unlocked, they could access my banking information. They could get into my contacts. They could check emails and look at all this stuff. So I have what's called two-step verification, which means if you log into my device and you don't get the text response and the right code, you can't access my device. Learn more about two-step verification. Dictate when possible. Voice recognition is providing text and short email responses at high correctness ratings. We look at dictating as the new Google rolls out its new text or speech to text features, where it actually dictates as you speak instead of what it used to do is take a lump of words that you speak out, go find out what it is, and bring back the best result. Dictate when possible, optimizing that time, typing. Not everybody can type. Um, Tablet purchasing, don't get caught up in the storage or mobile network access. While you use these features and they're nice, they cost more and you won't use them. Cloud resources are best, and Wi-Fi is almost everywhere now at some low cost. Overload, getting away from too many devices. Please step away every now and then. And then mobile gaming. Games are pretty fun, but can evaporate time. If we're talking about optimization, you notice I didn't spend any time talking about Angry Birds. So following up, our last webinar is now live. The entire hour webinar is now live. Email marketing for the holidays 2012. It's on our YouTube page. You'll see over there. Please visit and subscribe today. youtube.com/standandstretch. It's a full-length webinar, so it starts off with the same kind of stuff we went through today. It looks at everything. It's now available on YouTube. Go subscribe. Go check it out. Sitandlearn.biz is how you can get more information about how to find us out. I appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you so much for attending. I look forward to having more of these, and we got one coming up in 2 weeks. It's a LinkedIn webinar. It's going to be all about how to optimize connections. How to utilize connections to succeed. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time, and there'll be some follow-up emails from the webinar software about how we did. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, guys.